Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we have something different to offer you, and we are going to take a deep dive into Brompton as a company. The reason for this deep dive is fairly simple. We all ask ourselves and comment and talk all the time like, do Brompton even innovate anymore? So what I've done to try and actually answer that question is I've looked through countless interviews with Will Butler Adams and Andrew Ritchie to try and highlight some points that maybe they talk about why we don't see stuff we want to see, and why maybe as consumers we don't see the innovation that they always talk about that they're doing. So let's start with one of the reasons what I think holds them back, and that is their mission of complete urban freedom. So let's roll the clips of what Will has to say about that.
In 2008, I took over running the business. I did a sort of management buyout. And at that point, we set a clear ambition that our mission was to change how people live in cities. We have a simple aim, which is just to make living in cities a little bit better. That's what we want to do.
And all I'm obsessed about is that urban dynamic, and not just the people that live in the city, but the people who live outside, but then visit the city to do their business.
Our mission is to change how people live in cities, to make them happier, to make people enjoy their lives more in the city. And as more people live there, millions and millions, we need more of it. That is how we measure success.
Our mission is we create urban freedom for happier lives. That'll be the measure of success. And 1 million bikes is getting there.
So I think one of the first things we have to ask ourselves is, has Brompton completed its mission statement of creating urban freedom? I think that's an astounding 100% yes. The C-Line has been an absolute timeless piece that has produced through years and years and years of consumer feedback to become the bike it is today. It's used in countless urban environments and is safely one of the best folding bikes in the market. However, Brompton as a company didn't really stop there. They did also go on to produce the P-Line and the T-Line. Now, if you were to break the T-Line down alone, it is the ultimate urban bike, but also carries that ultimate price tag. But as a company, they have kind of succeeded in the mission, and that was the T-Line that's helped them create that mission there. Not only did they go there, that obviously their other main goal is to help get people that can ride a bike back to a bike, and that's where they end up coming with the innovation of their electric bike. So they created the C-Line and the P-Line electrics to get even more people in urban environments cycling. And not only that, from all the feedback we've had, while we don't personally see everything on it, the bike has been tweaked and tweaked and tweaked over all those years to where I've been riding a 2023 model, and it really is quite a faultless bike, apart from the weight, but it certainly holds its weight up in any urban environment. However, my thinking is, does this mission statement really trap and limit Brompton into a corner where they may be starting to get a disconnect between their consumers? My reason for that is that they've already cracked the urban jackpot with the T-Line. They can't really continue to innovate significantly more because the T-Line can't really be enhanced, nor can the weight come down much more from the product they have. But they could start to look a little bit like, can we get people slightly further out coming in? Can we look at different types of terrain that people are coming across? Or do we just stick to what we know and do really well? Now, as we covered in the previous episode, the Brompton is coming to a 12-speed next year, but it doesn't really make sense for a bike company that's solely focused on being urban to have the 12 speeds, because it's just not really needed. They've already got the bike that does that. So does a 12-speed variation being in Brompton's head the first ticket to say they may be considering branching out and seeing the difference of having that 12-speed to maybe accepting people can come further? Is the 12-speed their aim at getting people that live a couple of miles away to come in, and that's why it's on the P-Line electric first? I'm not really sure, but I think this is potentially a sign they could be thinking of something else coming. The second part to this is Brompton's design and innovation. Brompton as a company are very positive and loud speaking about how their design and innovation is massive to them and something they are consistently pushing at the forefront of their R&D. Now, let's cut to the take of Will talking about design and innovation.
What we've got to focus on is what we're good at, which is designing and making cool products. Like the T line is super light. It's flipping expensive, and I wish it wasn't. But unfortunately, titanium is flipping expensive, making it's a nightmare. So it's just expensive. In fact, the margins on that bike are less than our normal bike. But it's insanely light, 7.4 kilos. And it's transformational. And for a lot of customers, that makes a difference. And now they can jump into the world of Brompton. The design hasn't changed, but the bike's changing all the time. So I reckon I've been there 14 years, with the exception of one part, which has been a dogged us and no one's wanted. It's been like a hot potato, which has finally been fixed. Pretty much every part's probably changed 2 or 3 times over that period. You can't see it, but they've changed. Worrying too much about what might or might not happen, and to continue to be different. And, I've been there 14 years. In theory, I should be stale. I'm frustrated we haven't even got started with the amount of stuff we should be doing with this business. I'm afraid there isn't enough innovation in our sector. I'm giving the sector a hard time. That's only because I care about it so much. I want it to be better. And I'm criticizing myself as much as I'm criticizing everyone else. We are far from perfect, and all these things we're trying to do.
Firstly, do you know what the hot potato part is that they were talking about in the interview there? Because I have a very good idea what it is, but I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are in the comments, just to make sure we're all aligned. Now, with design and innovation, we have touched on the P line and T line, which realistically the P line was innovation because it did show design changes. It actually changed the bike quite a lot. People don't probably see it as the big step that it was, but the T line is a massive innovation step for Brompton. It is a complete redesign and a completely different beast of a bike. So I do have to give them kudos on that front. That being said though, where I think they lack the innovation is something that the company don't really want to push, and that is looking at the broader scale of what the bike can do. They are so fixated on the urban side, which I completely get, that's the company's drive, but they could also see the potential of seeing, with all the aftermarket stuff, why maybe people do want a little bit of variation from tire size to being able to go off-road and make a bike that could be deemed as a bit more of a hybrid. May that just be 20-inch wheels and disc brakes. That's something they surely can see that is a market for, but they decide not to really push that avenue. Now, when they do talk about design, it is fair for us to always say the design of the Brompton is absolutely faultless. It has been refined to perfection, and that probably only comes by not going crazy branching out at the start. But I think it's really fair to say that they've not branched out for so long. They've refined their product to an absolute T. They have to put that creativity somewhere else, and I do think that does lie in looking at other ways they can hit different markets, because at the moment all they're doing is just constantly upscaling the product they have rather than helping to branch out to other markets. Now, that might not be a problem, but I do think it holds back in the design and innovation front. So it's only fair to talk about the 12-speed leaks that have came out in a little bit more detail here. Obviously, they're going to deem it as big innovation and a brand new groundbreaking for Brompton as a company. And 12-speed, yes, it is to them, but at the very start of this video, we did have that discussion about how it's a purely urban-based bike. 12 speeds just is not required in the urban environment, especially when if you did struggle, you do have the Brompton electrics already there. So you can only feel that what they've done is try to figure out how they can make a new product for some excitement, but all they're doing is recycling the parts, so they don't have to actually go through a lot of R&D to do a completely renewed design again for it, where I think we could all agree the C-Line probably could do with an actual update in some other specific way, whether that be the introduction of a double chainring at the front, or just a change at the back and maybe just keeping a derailleur setup at the back. I feel they've kind of hit a little curveball just to get out that way so they can release an e-bike and last themselves for another couple of years. And what this allows them to do as a company is they've already got such a really well-run production line that knows how to make the C line and the P lines very well. However, if you were to then introduce a whole new build, you're going to need a significantly bigger production plant because it's going to have to go through different stages and storing of parts. Now, I generally think this is in Brompton's head that they can't really afford at this point in time to create a whole new product in-house, whereas we already see that the tea line is manufactured somewhere else. So it makes sense that with what parts they have, they can keep that production in-house because they're still just manufacturing the same parts. That then leads me nicely onto point 3, which I have broken down into profits, quality, and parts. So let's cut back to Will and see what his take is on this.
We've always been obsessed with quality. And quality, not just in the product, but in how you make the product, in how you teach your staff, in how you look after the cleanliness. The value in a bike, in my opinion, is the frame. That's the clever bit. And the way we make our frame is weird. It's anal. It has a tolerance of about plus or minus 0.2 of a mil versus a normal bike plus or minus 2 mil. We use CMM machines, we braze it, we do weird stuff because it demands it, because it's already a compromise because it folds. So everything else must not be a compromise. If they don't understand that all of this is leading to profitability, and actually we're not interested in profits. We're interested in more people riding bikes around the world. But if we don't have the profits, we won't be able to fulfill our dreams. So it's part of the necessary output from the company to allow us to fulfill our potential.
I think one of the things we can start on is the profit element to the company. Now, the company itself doesn't actually have any debt and is privately owned, so it's been a really, really well-run product for all those years, but probably stops them taking bigger risks that you see bigger companies take. For instance, all the stocks are split between Andrew, Will, friends and family, and employees, which is absolutely great, but a lot more stuff is at risk if they take those big risks on it. There's lots of information that cover Brompton's past history. They're very open with their finances, which is great, but in order to really, really innovate, in my opinion, you have to take the bigger risk. I think one thing that they never talk about, and I've not seen, is that while they talk about they're not a company there to make profits, yes, profits have to exist for them to continue to do what they do and allows them to have their retail outlets, pay their staff fair wages, which is all great, but everything being in-house to me really, really limits Brompton, and this is why I think it holds them back. If Brompton wanted to release a disc brake bike, or Brompton wanted to release a 12-speed internal hub, they're going to be the ones that want to manufacture it. They won't go to third-party manufacturing and buy the parts from them. But what this does is just create one really closed ecosystem. And where this has created issues for me as someone that goes out to do quite a lot of charity events, is when you go out with the Brompton, you don't have any spares because majority of people don't do the events in Brompton. But it also means that every part you buy usually has to be genuine, which, you know, I can definitely see the for genuine, but sometimes maybe you just want to do it a little bit in budget. Whereas if you use the bigger companies like Shimano and SRAM for parts, you can buy pretty generic cables and discs to fit all that stuff. I mean, you can bet your bottom dollar that if they do come out with a disc brake bike, like, their disc brakes are going to be very expensive and they will probably have some unique locking system that isn't center lock or 6-bolt. And that's only so they can keep you as a consumer buying their parts, in my opinion. You can see it all across their bike. You obviously can't really buy many shifters or anything like that to really work for the bike. It just creates so many problems and always requires you to usually go get specialist service on the bike. So with the majority of bike manufacturers, most of them only make money from the frame and design itself because all the other components are usually brought in from the bigger component manufacturers, which is why companies usually offer a frame only option if you decide to build your own bike, and the company profit more from that because they're not then having the outgoing to the other companies for these parts. Now, Brompton don't have that as an option because they control everything and manufacture everything that goes on their bike. Now, I do get the positives of that it's such a unique item that, yeah, you don't have a massive range of like 16-inch wheels to go out and buy. You don't have a massive range of hubs that fit their specific frame dimensions. But if they really wanted their bikes to be more customizable by the consumer, they really could do it, but don't opt to do it, because they can maximize their profits by consistently making you come back for their parts. On to point 4, we are going to look at Will's perspective on trends and other types of bicycles. And through what I've seen, he is very vocal about how Brompton really don't want to go down that route. So let's cut back to Will.
You walk into a shop. Hello? I'm here for a bike. Oh, right. What sort of bike do you want? Hardtail? Softtail? Gravel? I mean, what's a derailleur? I mean, what's the gears? I mean, what sort of stuff do you want? I mean, are you after the Bosch? Are you after the Shimano? Are you after the thing? A bike? No, take me over here.
And we're not into fashion, and we're not coming out with this year's trendy hardtail, softtail, fattail, thintail, whattail, fandango. We don't want people to buy more. We want them to buy something that is useful, that will last a long time. And if they love it, they'll tell their friends, it might look a bit weird, but this thing is flicking cool.
The bike industry therefore shifted into recreation. It's about road cycling, it's about BMX, it's about mountain biking, but the world of lifestyle, urban living, cycling, just as a means of getting around and making your life better, that seemed to disappear.
And we haven't come out with millions of different variants. We haven't come out with the hardtail, the softtail, the gravel, the big wheel, the fat wheel, the thin wheel, the this trend, the that trend. We've just made it better.
Now, you can obviously tell he's heavily opinionated on what he likes and what he doesn't like, and that Brompton is an urban bike, and that's absolutely fine. But they can't say that this year's that year's this year's that year, because they're constantly just doing paint jobs on a bike and rebranding it as like, this bike's so great now that it's in a different colour. Oh, we went with this person now and that's great, so buy the bike. They're obviously smart at what they do, but they would probably find they would have way better success doing the one-off, here's our gravel bike for 1 year only, or here is this bike for 1 year only. Not just colours, because if they're giving it a whole year's run, they can at least potentially take a little bit of the facility to try and make that custom accommodation to that bike and create excitement around it by having it in limited quantities. That always drives excitement and always drives people wanting it. And as Brompton is so spread by word, it would also spread word so well about the different bike that they have done. Again, I do also find it hard to say is that they're not interested in being trendy. If they weren't interested about being trendy, they wouldn't be getting all these custom paint jobs from top artists and all that, because they would be like, no, there's no point about that. That's just feeding into what people see as trendy. They would just produce the basic bike. So I do disagree with him that he's not interested in being trendy. Yes, in the terms of like hardtails and all the other stuff he goes to talk on about, but they obviously have to follow trends in order to be a successful company. I just don't really agree with the way he words it and is super negative towards those other types of bikes. I do also feel when he's having that clip talking about the retail experience, about how you walk in a bike shop and what do you want? Do you want this bike? Do you want that? Do you want the Shimano? Do you want this or that? A Brompton isn't technically that simple to walk in and ask for. If I knew nothing about a bike and I go in and be like, can I have a Brompton please? You would still be like, yes, well what Brompton do you want? Do you want it with the low handlebars? Do you want it with the high, with the medium? Oh wait, do you need the extended seat post? Oh, what do you know about the gearing? Do you want it with 6 speeds or actually just a single speed? There's still a lot of terminology that has to go around, so he phrases it with just big words, but it's not that simple to just go in and ask for a Brompton bike, because you could have the same argument either way. So I feel he's cleverly wording this to try and make it seem complicated, and Bromptons aren't, but Bromptons are complicated and significantly more complicated. As I point out, if you're trying to explain a 12-speed system with the way they would set it up to someone that isn't a cyclist, so a little contradictory for me there in what he's saying, especially if this 12-speed comes to fruition next year. Now, point 5 here is me breaking down Will's view on change and the consumer itself. It's only one clip, but I do feel it's really powerful, and back into Will here, he really does stand up when it would have been much easier to agree with the other view coming to him here. So let's cut to the chase.
Okay, and what I don't want to see, not that I'm guiding your company policy here, I do want you, but I don't want this. What I don't want to see is bloody disc brakes and electric gears.
Well, what you need to remember is we will do whatever we can to try and get more people cycling. And we're not talking to one consumer. So just because one group of consumers doesn't like something, that doesn't matter. If the consumer group we're trying to target, so electric's a really good example. People have really strong opinions about electric. And if you don't like electric, that's fine. Don't buy one.
Now, in that situation there, I actually have to applaud Wilfred's response, because he really does highlight about how much the company's ethos is based on, like, we won't follow what people want or what people have. And his electric example was absolutely brilliant. The fact that if disc brakes and electronic shifting get more people on bikes, that is what the mission is. So he's not going to rule something out that people think is trendy or people don't like. People get to make their own choices. So where I feel that statement is really positive, why not experiment with a different bike? Because if having an off-road version of a bike gets more people out on a bike, then surely that's a win-win for Brompton. Now, you could listen to a million things and swing arguments both ways and around, but I genuinely feel that the company is at a turning point with the announcement of the 12 speed. I think they are starting to think of, we have conquered so much of the urban environment, we need a way to trickle it out a lot more. And through that conversation we had about the 12 speed, they're then starting to aim at, like, the perfect bike to take on vacation, the perfect bike to take out for a longer day. Now, if you wanted a longer day bike, you're going to want a bigger tyre that's more comfortable for the longer experience. So I hope that's a glimpse into him, that he does see a slight change of where the company could go. Not drastically, but I think the company are well aware of the limitations of realistically already hitting almost close to the max potential of urban bike. Now, I think I'm going to have to cut the video there, otherwise I could sit here and talk for days. And this is only the first part of one of these types of episodes, so if you have enjoyed it, let me know in the comments. Now, it'd be great to have your feedback. If there's anything you think I've missed or anything I've been too harsh on, then that'd be great. I do want to just give the usual YouTubeisms out. If you can like and subscribe to the video if you've enjoyed this content. I am proud to announce that I am now doing memberships, so you can become a Brompton Guy supporter for the total cost of 99 pence. That fees go help to run this channel and maintain it. So please, if you have enjoyed me so far, consider being a member in the channel. More information can be found just below if you hit the join button. And as always, I'll do my best to upload weekly. I've been a video every 2 weeks, and I'm keeping that trend hopefully all the way to the new year. So thank you very much. If you want to see anything covered, let me know, and enjoy your night.